Welcome back, everybody, to an exciting episode of Spicy Gamers, the podcast that borrows heavily from another show, where we talk about video games, rock and roll music, and, of course, feature really fun guests with really hot food. Today, we have my guitarist of Ro Panuganti Prague Experience, bassist of Seattle-based math rock band Armature, and game dev Colbydude. Hi. He's been staying here since...
How's it going?
It was pretty good. So Colby's been here hanging out, working on our MagFest performance, and we figured we could do a Spicy Gamer. So we're going to go through the Season 22 lineup, just like the last Spicy Gamers, and we're going to knock out some questions. So the first question I want to ask is...
Wait. Do we take the bite first or the question first? I think it's the bite first, right?
Let's do a bite first.
All right. Here we go. All right.
I don't think I have, like, much flavor on it.
It's on there, but yeah.
It's a really juicy wing, which I like. We've gone back and forth on how long we've gone to MagFest, also known as Music and Gamer Fest in National Harbor, Maryland. And we, of course, met at MagFest. A bunch of friends we met at MagFest. We've now played at MagFest main stage. And what's a standout memory you have from your first MagFest back in 2014 or 15? Because we're still on the fence of which one it was.
Yeah, it would be... I almost want to say 2013. But it might have been 2014. I don't know. Standout memory? I think really just, like, meeting even more of my, like, online friends. Because, like, the first, like, con I went to like meet other people from online. Right. It was Minecon, the original one.
Yes, I remember.
And that was in 2011. And I used to go to this old Zelda fan gaming forum called Zelda Fan Game Central, ZFGC. And we had friends from there go to Minecon, and then another one of our friends was like, "Hey, come to MagFest." And we're like, "Yeah, let's go." So I think that being said, if Minecon was 2011, then I think my first was 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's still 11 years ago.
Yeah, that lines up. Yeah.
Was it more of a mind blow going from Minecon to MagFest, or just going to zero cons at all, and then, like, how was the wow factor in each one of these?
Yeah, Minecon, the first one was like pretty huge, because that's when they, like, released the game. Like 1.0 came out.
That's right.
So it was a very different, like, MagFest was a very different feel from that. Minecon was, like, big, like, celebrating the game, and, like, not necessarily corporate, but almost corporate. Like, it was just about the one thing. And MagFest was just more, like, hang out with your friends and, like, party and, like, have a good time. And there's, like, all these different things to do, and, like, learn about new bands and, like, all that kind of stuff. So really just that first time, and then, like, going and seeing bands I'd never heard of before, and then now that I see in every year that I've been back to MagFest. So yeah, just all of it. What's
a band you remember playing your first MagFest if you can?
Power Glove.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. And I remember it just being like, they would play the Tetris theme, so they'd be like, you know, everybody in the crowd, like, get your arms together and do the Russian dance.
Oh, yes.
And just how exhausting that was.
Was that crowd smaller, of course, than...
Yeah. So, like, they used to have it, so... You probably remember this, but they had it... so it was 2 stages.
Yeah!
On sides, and they would just switch.
It would be like...
It was like Work Tour or something like that.
It was like there would be a band, and then, like, the other one would be, or, like, electronic.
Or, like, another band on the other side would be setting up, and then once done, you'd go to the other side.
I kind of liked that, just because it was almost, again, exaggerating how many acts they were stuffing in, that they would need 2 stages to prepare.
Right.
Interesting.
Cheers.
So, of course, you and I have already talked about a lot of this, but for the sake of Spicy Gamers, what was your expectation from the text message I sent you about getting MagFest main stage, and, you know, what are some surprising things you think people would find interesting about us leading to our main stage show?
Yeah, I don't know. I was definitely, like, stoked. I'm like, okay, wow, like, it's happening. It was more of, like, less of a shock and more of, like, all right, time to get prepared.
Right.
And then I just went into super like gear mode and figuring out, okay, here's what happened last year or 2023.
Yeah, recount the story too.
Yeah, so our 2023 show had a lot of tech issues. A lot of like we had some like weird feedback loop, and then like our clicks were desynced, and then we were down like an IEM monitor, so I didn't even have IEMs during that show. So I was like, okay, I don't want this to happen again. I'm gonna fix it.
It really, like, for lack of a better term, like, it kind of scarred us all in that, like, oh my god, we could prep so much of a good show, and then if you're missing that.
Right.
So what went into building our IEM, like, our rig?
Yeah, so I kind of just took our existing, like, Armature setup, and I was like, okay, how do I make this, like, kind of portable? And how do I make it so it's easy for front of house to, like, get into and be able to get individual lines for everyone? Because that's something we didn't have for Armature.
Right.
We would just give them a stereo, and we would have our mix, and that's just what everyone heard. And that would kind of go certain ways depending on the venue. So my goal was to, like, okay, we'll give front of house what they want and give each instrument a line.
Right.
And then just set it up so we can rehearse in the room very easily.
Right.
And then, just have our own mixes and not have to worry about anything that front of house is doing. Just decouple it entirely so we can just be happy with what's in our ears, and then front of house can do whatever they want.
Right. Now, going into the actual show and the amount of people, did that meet any expectation you had there? Just like in terms of like the show feelings and...
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it was definitely like, walking up there, I was like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of people.
It's like more people than you remember, even though you'd literally been to the stage to see other bands.
But that, in terms of crowd size, that didn't really faze me. I was more focused on like, okay, I gotta get up here, I gotta get everything plugged in.
Right.
The tech help from MagFest was super great. Mm-hmm. Got everything wired up super quickly. So our rack and everything was like good to go very, very quickly. I think like the reason it took so long for us to start was they were waiting on dialing the wedges in or something like that. Right. So I was just relieved actually. So I was like, okay, everything works. I guess I can play the show.
I distinctly remember looking at when we were like, oh, we're gonna play, and we'd all heard our instruments like working, but at the end, I think a lot of people, including me, were just like, it doesn't feel like it actually happened because so much went perfectly.
It went pretty smoothly, other than like blasting my ear out. But
yes, you choose to wear one earplug out or an ear out rather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just so I could hear Rahul better. Since we didn't have drums in the IEMs, but
I may start doing that honestly.
Yeah, like all of it just went by so fast. It was like, okay, we played it. It happened.
It happened. I kept saying it didn't happen. Like, it just didn't faze me.
It just went
but it did.
Super fast.
We gotta talk guitars.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've been playing guitar for a long time, in one way, shape, form. Was there, like, a pivotal guitar player you heard, album you can remember, that, like, really made you want to play hard rock and metal especially?
It was Crush 40. 100%. And also very quickly fell in love with Steve Vai. Mm-hmm. I think mainly through Guitar Hero. That might have been my first exposure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was like, I've had a guitar since I was like 5 years old. I got like a junior size Squier acoustic that I didn't really care for. And then once I hit high school, I was like, oh, you know what? Music's actually like pretty cool. And Guitar Hero had been out, like 2 and 3 had just come out.
Right.
And I was like playing that a lot. So I was like, oh, I should probably like do it for real.
Right.
And so I just picked it up, kind of taught myself throughout high school. Kind of just went from there. But yeah, my goal I think was pretty much, I was like, I want to play the Crush 40 songs. Like that's awesome. And now I can, so that's awesome. So I made it.
Yeah, and you played it literally for thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like last week or so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's so many songs to go through that will work out. Has there been another person like later on, like growing up, that just like or another kind of moment as pivotal as Guitar Hero, you think?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I started getting into like intervals for the first time, I was like, this is beautiful. Like this is super great. Like just the way that Aaron does like can, I guess, express himself through the instrument is super great. And I feel like I have a long way to go to get there, but that's like where I want to go.
Sure. It's nice, because I view the exact same two pivotal moments. When I got Guitar Hero, which was when I got my first guitar, and then again in about 2012, I was in like my first or second semester of college, and I heard basically Periphery 1 and 2, maybe I'm mixing up 2, and then Intervals in Time, and Animals as Leader's first album, all within like the same month.
Yeah.
And then I think I saw Pliny's very first EPs propping up on the indie scene.
Yeah, I got like Pliny, Intervals, Animals as Leaders, I think even Periphery, like all right at the same time. And I was kind of late to the game on that even, because like it was in 2015, because it was right after I moved to Seattle.
Sure.
And where I discovered all that kind of stuff. And then ever since then, I'm like, ooh, okay, all right. Melodic guitar wankery.
Yeah. There's no better like description, I guess, because it's sort of prog. It's also just like sometimes jazzy.
Aaron has described it as guitar easy listening. Because I feel like Intervals is a band that you could show someone and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's really nice. Even though it's like guitar bullshit.
Well, like, I found jazz accidentally fell into that category for like bebop and old jazz. Like, I could tell my folks or something, they couldn't name a single like jazz artist besides someone, common, but everyone can turn it on and kind of enjoy it without trying to analyze it. Right. Which I think is ideal for music for me. I'm like, I don't need to study this.
Yeah.
But it's really cool that worked out that way. Prague Experience band, Armature. But rewinding a little bit more, you're in a band called Weedbee. What's the fun story with Weedbee, and how does that distinctly flavor itself compared to, Armature's sound and my sound?
Yeah. So Weedbee, I joined in 2013, and this was like my first like actual band. Buddy of mine in high school, Corey, the other guitar player in Weedbee, just was like, hey, you play guitar, you want to try out for my band? I'm like,
one does.
Okay, sure, why not? Never done that. And he like sent some really bad tabs, and I just and some like demos, and so I just like learned the songs, like came to practice, and they were like, okay, you're in. I'm like, cool. And yeah, it was definitely like Weedbee was like melodic death metal, so it's like very different what I was playing just like on my own. Probably in that era I was like just really into like kind of alt rock stuff. Maybe, or like Foo Fighters, or even like the pop punk or stuff like Biffy Clyro, or whatever. So I was like primarily playing that kind of stuff, or maybe I would play like some Metallica.
Sure.
Here and then. And then I went into this like really heavy kind of music. And it was fun. So I played rhythm guitar in that band too. So I was just like drop C riffs all day, and it was just a lot of fun. It was very like party heavy, which is fine.
As a band.
Yeah. Like our big quote hit, it was called Rum Gun Salute, and our vocalist Nick would carry a super soaker that had rum in it and to shoot at the crowd. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that kind of a show, honestly. Just
they could get bonkers. There have been shows where clothes would come off. But a lot of that was in the basement scene in Lafayette. So just like a lot of underground shows or like bar shows and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
But it was a lot of fun. Yeah. If anything, to describe my time with Weedbee was just fun. It was great. So it's awesome.
Do you think there's things that you learned about it, both as being part of the band and as a guitarist, that kind of play into covers and how you get to play now?
Yeah. I guess I think more about kind of it, in terms of like a live arrangement, in applying to the covers. I think of things in like a live band arrangement more often as just trying to like put out a piece of music, and I'm trying to like think about things as like a show, in terms of like set order and like what it's going to do to the crowd and that kind of stuff. So that made me super aware to that kind of stuff. And also just like kind of song arranging. I didn't write a whole lot when it came to Weedbee, but I was way better, and I think I still am, of just taking ideas and being able to arrange them.
Sections.
Yeah. And just like piece something out of it as opposed to just like come up with something out of nowhere.
Our friends at Armature would kill me if I did not bring up Armature. So I'm going to ask, what's challenging, especially as someone who's so familiar on guitar especially, but for playing bass with Armature, what kind of experience is that? And how does it contrast with, again, Weedbee, current shows?
So it's kind of just like playing a different role overall. Kind of like being the rhythm section. So I'm like way more locked into what Evan's doing on drums as opposed to what's happening on guitar. So I'm not trying to like do bass parts that are just like the guitar parts but lower.
Right.
Sometimes we do, because of like, if I feel like if a section really calls for that and like just we could really like fill out the sound that way, that's really awesome. But I pay way more attention to what's happening on drums and trying to like hit accents at the same time like Evan's trying to hit accents and that kind of thing.
Is there any standout song that you think like that's a fun bass song for Armature?
Yeah. Our song Thunderclap.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say it's like necessarily a bass heavy song. I guess I have a little bit of a solo in it, but it like a melodic kind of solo in it. But overall, that's just like kind of like my favorite of our songs, because it's like the closest thing we have to a Protest the Hero song.
I could see that.
But yeah, it's just kind of like all over the place, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just really fun. It's just kind of it's almost a linear song, but we have like a repeat for the hook. That's what we call it. Yeah, I don't know. That one, I think, just overall is probably my favorite.
The one to go to.
Yeah.
That's good.
Not necessarily for any sort of rhyme or reason other than just like I love the arrangement of the song.
No, it's a really cool song, and I think that it kind of it's different than like Parade and some of the older like Armature stuff, because I think the structure does get like, I don't know, it feels bigger to me.
Yeah.
Like there's a very distinct middle section too. There's a distinct thunderclap.
Yeah. And it's very dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our new song, I won't drop the title of, but is getting up there in terms of favorite suit. That's definitely the most technical, I think, in terms of bass stuff I'm getting.
That's pretty fun.
Although, what's Whale Lord is also kind of up there.
I don't think I've heard Whale Lord.
Oh, yeah. Whale Lord's up there in terms of like bass technicality, but I feel like, and when it comes to like technicality on bass, like I get it kind of just closer to guitar parts that are fun on bass.
Right.
I don't really have any like special bass technique or anything.
Right.
I like make up slapping half the time.
Sure. Sounds like it's a band that's playing with texture a lot.
Yeah.
In my mind, like Owen has such a very specific sound, and Bryant too. Like,
they sound very distinct from each other, which is good. I think everybody sounds super distinct.
Yeah, it's a very standout band in that way, I think. Whereas, some bands are focused on cohesion, and then all you hear is the singer, and then all you hear is like maybe the riffs.
Right.
But it's cool when you're like, oh my god, stop! Each person listen to.
Yeah, you can listen to each person and be like, oh, that's really nice, and then oh, that's really nice, and oh, that's really cool. I feel like every member gets their like own moment to like really shine, I guess.
Okay, another one of your loves outside of music is games, and specifically game dev. So a lot of people may not know that you've actually been making all sorts of different games and proof of concepts. What's something that you can remember from getting started with an interesting game dev, like back when?
Oh man.
And I know you told me some of these stories, but you gotta tell them again.
Yeah. First getting started was a lot of just like kind of playing around Game Maker. The Zelda fan game forum that I mentioned earlier was a big part of that, and kind of like cutting my teeth and like learning how to make fan games and stuff like that. The Ocarina of Time, like 2D, like hype around that forum was like a big influencer. But yeah, I don't know, try to make things that were like the video games that I liked, and kind of just see how it turned out, and just like kind of reverse engineering the systems and everything. It's like, okay, how do I translate that into how it works in Game Maker or whatever? And now it's like at a much like deeper level.
Sure, like philosophically gamed. But to someone who's starting out, you know, especially today, unlike when you would have played around with this, we're talking like 10 plus years ago.
Yep.
What kind of resources or things do you think could really help someone who's like, I want to make games, what do I do? I'm open to suggestions.
Honestly, like, maybe taking the fan game approach is a really good way to do that. I guess it kind of depends on what you want to go into, whether it's art or programming or whatever. Game jams are huge.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, spend 3 days working on something that kind of abides by a theme or some kind of objective or whatever, and just like work with as many people as you can. But in terms of resources, like, man, there's so many compared to like what we had.
Yeah. Game Maker. I remember there was one I used at a camp. I cannot tell you the name of this. It was very like, it was too user friendly. So I don't think you could build like anything expensive.
But I think the practice of like looking at some of your favorite games and kind of like trying to reverse engineer the mechanics is like a really good exercise. Be like, oh, I like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. How does the character work in that? How does Link move around? How do you make the sword swing? And how does the hitbox work with enemy collision and all that kind of stuff?
Is there a game jam in particular that you remember having a really interesting like theme, or you coming up with an interesting game?
Man, honestly, not really. Because I feel like in terms of how far we make it in
the jam,
in game jams, I never really make it that far. Like we only have like one completed game jam project.
Oh, sure.
But I've started a lot. That like Ninja Frog idea, I think was really cool, even though it didn't really execute on it. But I'll probably
yet.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, what is that post? Who knows?
Yeah.
I like the idea that a lot of game jams. So, like, I've experienced game jam once or twice as the maker, and I use Game Maker, I think, to save time. A few times as a musician. One thing I think people forget. I mean, we're both musicians, but also as a coder, like a lot of people see game jams and they only think of that one main coding role. Have you ever noticed like a certain like amount of skill sets that go to game jams? Like, is it all coders, or is it a lot of people who don't know what to do but they still like want to make games?
Yeah,
I'm curious about like the accessibility.
I feel like from what I've seen, it has been a lot of like coders or like solo devs that maybe like are coders, but maybe they're like pretty good at art. I wish that I was, because that's always my holdup. Is like, I want the game to look good, but if I'm if I'm working with rectangles,
yeah, being a pixel artist or a 3D modeler would be very handy.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true, but I think it would be kind of coder heavy.
Coder heavy, yes, yeah.
Because it's not necessarily the easiest. I don't know, man.
Maybe it's the most associated to.
Yeah,
like, just.
I think maybe because I am primarily a programmer, that maybe that's just what I see. But I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, we both know a lot of like game artists or visual artists, and then just seeing that crossover, even in music videos, it's not always as inherent. You know, if you look at all the YouTube guitar players out there, most all of them are musicians. Most all of them are producers, but then there's still like album artists. There's people helping.
Right.
It's kind of cool that game jams could bring all that together, and then you don't have to make a game with bosses.
I'm always on the lookout for artists. So if you like pixel art,
please hit
me up.
I'm not gonna like it in like 30 seconds.
Just like come back and hit it. Oh yeah.
You recently worked on a very, very cool project that took quite some time with our friend Jordan. And we've got to talk about Project Praelium. So, what inspired this very specific kind of like as you were talking about deconstruction of some of your favorite games, turning it into something you can call your own.
Yeah. So Project Praelium like literally started as that. Jordan just approached me. He's like, "Hey, I want to do like a JRPG battle system in Unity." I'm like, "That sounds fun." And so he had like put together like a really, really bare bones like prototype, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I could probably like help out with this." And it kind of just kept snowballing from there, because he was trying to model it after SMT, like Shin Megami Tensei specifically. Even when it came to like the turn-based battles, like the press turn system is what it's called.
Right.
So we did that. We started out with that. And so basically we just recreated SMT's battle system in Unity. That's kind of like
the first major start.
Yeah. And then it started to evolve after that. Jordan's kind of like the lead drive of the design of it, and I'm just like, okay, I'll take your idea and I'll build the systems around it, essentially, and what we need to like make it nice.
Right. It's cool because like in a game company that's serving like 4-5 hats right there. You know, that's a level designer and game design.
Yeah.
Without even needing to write down a single line of code, and then you have to write all the code as well because you're both programmers.
Yeah, and then like it kept snowballing. Like I initially pushed it into 3D because it was just 2D,
right?
Just like straight in a line, kind of a perspective, almost like it almost looked like Earthbound.
Right.
And then I was like, well, I want to learn how to use Blender, so I made like a really shitty butt-shaped island,
right,
in Blender, and I was like, okay, well, let's see.
I'm clearly qualified now.
And so I imported it into Unity, and just tried to make it 3D, and then Jordan was like, "Oh, that's cool. Well, what if we did this?" And then it just kind of kept just bouncing off of each other and building into what it is now.
Do you find like that as an organic kind of like original process? Even though, you know, like to me, as you were building it, I watched and I heard, "Hey, this is Shin Megami Tensei inspired. This is Final Fantasy X inspired." At what point do you think like the actual game started taking on this like Colby Jordan vibe? And, you know, because the product now, of course, I've seen is like, okay, I haven't seen something like this.
Right, yeah. Definitely, like, when Jordan came up with what was originally called the combo mechanic, which is the Critica mechanic is what we call it now, is when it kind of, like, started to get its own identity, which is pretty cool. I would say it's, like, even still, like, I don't know, it's hard to classify it as a game because we don't really have a plan for it in terms of an overall game. We're just kind of making systems, and we're making like kind of like pieces of it, like little set pieces. So we have this like combat demo which is what is out now. And like our next piece of that is going to be we want to incorporate Zelda-ish dungeons in a turn-based RPG
Zelda
kind of format. And after playing Sea of Stars, like, they kind of do that as well. I haven't finished the game, but, like, the first couple dungeons that are in the game, like, have kind of a Zelda feel to it. But they also have, like, the turn-based RPG battle system mechanics. So I'm like, okay, well, this it can probably work then.
That's cool. Like, you know, we talk about mix references a lot. When you're making music, like, you're not copying, but you have ideas that you can pull from little aspects, so you can change the differences. And it sounds like making a game has been that, but with development.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because like when Sea of Stars came out, I'd played through like the first kind of like almost like tutorial dungeon, I guess you can call it, up to like the first actual boss.
Right.
And I played that and I was like, I feel like this is kind of close to actually what we were trying to like go for. I'm gonna put this down and come back like.
So you don't borrow too.
Right.
Sure.
Like, I don't want it to look like a copycat.
Right.
But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna make this my reward for finishing the demo, and I still haven't like.
Right.
I've played it more now, but I need to.
I find myself holding off on listening even to like other musicians until I'm like done.
Right. Yeah.
Especially because like MagFest, we were doing a Metroid theme.
Yeah.
That means everyone's probably going to want to play around with that same game.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, if I ever have like the idea to come up with a cover, I'm like, I can't look at it.
do not.
Yeah. And then of course I always see like someone else will put up a cover like of the same song, like as I'm working on it. I'm like, no.
Which again, it's not even like a competitive sort of thing.
No.
But it's like the urge to be even more you and not like take, from anything.
Not beyond insanity, but
I'm gonna take like one bite.
we'll see if I maintain any sanity after this. Cheers.
Cheers. It immediately tastes
Oh yeah, that's not good.
industrially.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are both really big Zelda fans, and I recently finally got to play around with what I consider to be the most slept-on title possible of almost every game that I've gotten to play. So what are your thoughts on the Minish Cap?
Minish Cap is one of my favorite 2D Zeldas.
It's so
Just one of my favorite
good.
Zeldas in general. The artwork is gorgeous. I think the dungeons are very fun. All the items are very fun. I love the Kinstone trading system. It just like makes the interactivity with everyone in the world like so much more meaningful. And yeah, I love the Capcom Zeldas. Yeah, I'm trying to maintain my composure.
What's the other ones that are made by Capcom?
Oracle of Ages and Seasons.
Those were also Capcom, weren't they?
Yeah, they're Capcom developed.
Wow.
In Four Swords, I think, originally.
I think it was really cool that this game could look kind of like Wind Waker, so you draw a huge fan base there. It has all the density and like interest of A Link to the Past temple, all of the like cute shortcuts, and half the items are also really unique.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Do you think that Minish Cap influenced any future Zelda games because of how good it is?
Ooh. Yeah, I would say so. You definitely see like the Gust Jar mechanic, like that's even in
Smash Bros, right?
That's the Wind Bells from Skyward Sword, but which I think is inspired from Minish Cap. Yeah, I would say so. I wish Capcom or whatever that team was at the time, I don't know if they're still at Capcom or whatever, would make more. Because I think all of the Zelda games that came from those teams or team or whatever were some of the best.
Absolutely. Now, do you think of 3D Zeldas, there's anything that could match up to Minish Cap in terms of like people should really check this out if they're getting into Zelda for the first time?
I honestly like in terms of its overall world, I'd say Majora's Mask and Minish Cap have a lot of similarities, and actually they share a lot of the same characters. Like you'll see Anju and Malin and Talon and Postman are like all in both games.
The town itself of Minish Cap reminds me of like how interesting Termina is.
Exactly.
Especially compared to like, all the old towns.
And with the Kinstone system, it feels a little bit reminiscent of like the Bomber's Notebook. I want to see more things like that in Zelda, which I think Tears of the Kingdom started to kind of get, because...
Oh yeah, the reconstruction, as I call it.
It's more of like interacting like with the world of Hyrule or whatever it is at the time. Is like way more interesting. Because Breath of the Wild, I don't think really had that. It was really fun to explore, and the open world thing was great. I didn't think it worked as well the second time. I think if Breath of the Wild never happened and it was only Tears of the Kingdom, it would be like fucking phenomenal. But
I started to feel that way too. It was like, I respect that this is Zelda. This is the only true like sequel game in that Majora's Mask was so unique and different. To me, I respect it as its standalone. Tears of the Kingdom is like Breath of the Wild addicts. Here's some more.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll come down afterwards.
Which is fine. But I want more, I guess, Zelda games that are more involved with like the peoples of the world. Which Tears of the Kingdom, I think, was a good step in that direction. Because you're really involved in helping out the Zoras, the Rito, the Gerudo, Gorons.
That's what I liked about it. That I think, like, it deserves the critique it gets for those, lackings. But I was like, I loved the Gerudo and the Goron, and reacting to, like, it almost reminds me of like post-Civil War books and their like Reconstruction era.
Yeah.
It just didn't go as hard as as dark as like Majora's Mask, where
yeah.
they haven't even had the bad thing happen yet. Your actual favorite game, and of course one of the games you played last week, Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you, if the moon was like, let's say, a quarter of its size, and hit like the land of Termina, not maybe exactly Clocktown, what side characters do you think would have a clever way to survive?
Okay, somehow.
Or who would you want to survive too?
This is not a want, but somehow
Yeah.
Tingle would survive.
That's fair.
I don't know how, but he would be around. Who I would want to survive, man.
I want Anjun Cafe.
Yeah, Anjun Cafe. Yeah. That whole thing is really nice. Romani and Cremia, the Ranch sisters, probably. I think they could make it out. They had already planned. They had an escape plan already.
They could ride the horses.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
They had the evacuation plan. So that's a both. I think they would make it, and also a want.
What about the banker? He's gone.
Yeah, whatever. A want would be the soldier that gives you the stone mask. He should survive. He can make it. Although, I don't know, he got stuck in a weird spot, so maybe.
I was like, if he's like under the arch, maybe, and like.
Oh yeah, I forget they changed his location in 3DS because he's in Icona Valley, or the lower Icona Valley.
Oh, that's right.
In N64, but he's in the Pirate Fortress, in 3DS. Oh, and the band, Lulu's band.
Indiegogos.
Indiegogos, yeah. I'm like, why can't I think of the name? That would be great.
I feel like they could go underwater.
Yeah, the Zoras are fine. The Gorons are fucked.
No, I agree. I think the Dekus
are dead, for sure.
They were dead before. They were living next to a swamp.
Yeah.
It's clearly breathing all that.
And, I mean, Ikona's already dead. So I guess a want there would be Pamela and her father. Because they're...
Worthy side characters.
Yeah.
How would you build, whoever it is, the Colby signature guitar, and then what would be your go-to rig? You also get a free roadie who is perfect, and we'll set it up to your specs.
So like more of a who in terms of a brand, or like specs, or what? Specs? Okay.
It'll be, you can pick a brand if you were like, today you're like, alright, that brand would be cool.
Man. This is difficult because I feel very influenced by that Aaron Marshall Schecter, because that guitar is super
I was gonna say,
nice.
we're kind of lucky. We have guitars we really like.
Yeah. It's between Ibanez or PRS.
Okay.
Because Ibanez just has so many like legendary models and artists behind it.
True.
But I think my probably favorite like workhorse guitar is my Mark Holcomb PRS. So maybe that, because I do like kind of the body shape. So we'll use that as a base.
All right.
Man, that pickup set's really good too.
What is the Alpha Omega set?
Yeah.
Seymour Duncan.
Yeah. So yeah, some sort of probably Seymour Duncan pickups, because I really like the Seymour Duncan pickups in the Sonic and Shadow models too.
Yes.
So something from them, TBD, that has, I'd probably have it, I think I would, instead of like a dual humbucker, I think I would probably go HSS. Just for like a little more flavor. So if I could get like a Mark Holcomb PRS model that was like an HSS,
all right,
that's pretty close from PRS.
All
Probably something along that.
What kind of color and finish?
Ooh, well, blue guitar gang, matte finish of some sort. If I could do like I feel like it's kind of semi-gloss on the Aaron Marshall one.
Yeah.
Something similar to that, maybe. I don't know, and I would probably also go with a Wenge neck too, if I could, because I have one of my Ibanez's is a Panga Panga, and then I played one of Owen's guitar sets in Wenge neck, and that thing was amazing. So definitely like a darker neck and fretboard. Probably not rosewood, probably ebony.
picture most of it.
Yeah, radius flatter than the Earth.
Yes.
And then probably like a Godot style trend to it.
I like it.
Yeah.
This is like a far way, like from your first like ESP and like Les Paul style guitars.
Mm-hmm.
It's like evolved now into like this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Even before my ESP, I had an Ibanez S series.
Ah, sure. The
then-
first S series.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Wow.
That I put the Steve Vai DiMarzios in.
I like it.
So yeah, something like that. What was the like follow up to that? Rig.
Rig.
I feel like I basically have it. I love my Mesa Triple Crown so much. So I say I have it. That's it. And that's what I used for the RPPE set. So yeah, that's it. It's basically just the Triple Crown. I have a precision drive in front of it just to tighten it up a little bit. And then the amp's reverb is great. And I would probably get some sort of nice delay on it. I don't know, whatever delay I was using in the Fractal.
Yeah, it's probably the digital stereo or
something like that. I don't know what it was. And maybe a little bit of chorus.
Nice, simple.
Yeah.
For
are we toasting
45.
chicken?
Yes, of course we are.
Cheers.
All right, cheers. Name every Final Fantasy villain in order in 45 seconds. Go.
Chaos or Garland, the Emperor, Cloud of Darkness, Golbez or Xerneas.
Damn it!
X-Death, Kefka, Sephiroth, Ultimecia, Kuja, Jacked or Sin or Yui Evan,
20 seconds left.
Shadow Lord, or Kumlana for 11. 12. What's his name? Who starts with a B? Fuck. Skipping that one. Barnabas? No, not. Oh, fuck.
Keep going.
Bartandalus for 13. 14.
The player.
Yes. 15 is Arden. 16 is Ultimate. What's his name?
Which 12?
What is his name? Starts with a V.
Everything in my body says Vati.
No. He's got long black hair. I know what he looks like. I can't think of his name. It's not Vane, I don't think. Vaughn is the main character.
Like the Christian name Bond?
V-A-N is the next character.
Oh my god. You survived Spicy Gamers, Colby. 10 rounds of wings, 10 hot sauces, a lot of questions. What's next for you? In game dev, and in music, and in games. What are you playing? Where can people find your music and stream more Blue Man Villain?
Good God. Yeah, gonna pivot back into Project Praelium for a while, work on our quote dungeon demo. Music. Come see us at VGM Con, Ro Panuganti Prague Experience. We'll be playing there.
We got a special set based on the theme. Nothing's quite locked in.
Armature's still on hiatus because Bryant had a baby. Yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Stay tuned for another. Stay tuned for another episode of Spicy Gamers when I find someone willing to do this. And thanks for watching, everybody. Be safe when eating spicy foods and have a great day.
Bye.